to the stream of the judging for the LCD Jam. I am your host, Shibanya, and I'm joined by our esteemed judges, and I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with, we'll go alphabetical. Mihai.
Hey everyone, it's Michael, Mihai Zeta. Pleasure to see you all again for another stream. Just looking forward to talking about everyone, to be with you for another jam.
Awesome.
Hi, it's me, Soshu. I totally played all your games, and y'all know me.
Right before this, on Friday, we just found out the winner of Community Choice, so congratulations to them. However, back in time on Tuesday when we recorded this, we don't know that yet, so I'm excited to find out. But I'm very happy for you, winner, whoever you are. Congratulations.
Proud of you.
Your work is so awesome. We are in awe by it.
I'm a big fan. It's great. It's going to be true no matter who it is, so I can't wait. Or I'm so happy I found out. Anyway, Time Strange. We have 3 more categories that we're going to be judging today, and they are Best Use of Theme, which is for the game that made the most clever or interesting use or most apt use of either the LCD theme or the cutting edge theme. And the next category is Best Gameplay, so the game with the best mechanics or most fun gameplay experience. And the final category is Game of Jam, which would be the best game overall. And we do this promotion style, so for these first 2 categories, there's going to be a winner and a runner-up. And if one of those winners wins Best of Jam, the runner-up will be promoted to be the winner in their place, so nobody sweeps everything. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into deciding who the winner of Best Use of Theme would be. So I've got my short list of games that I think ought to be under consideration in no particular order would be Knife Ghost, Don't Stab Your Hand, Candlelight, and Pocket Duty. And Space Time Sunder. Said Duty.
I mean, it's so hard to have everyone did, in my opinion. It's just as far as theme goes, because everyone really stuck to the not just the LCD thing, but just like this is the new and improved thing.
Well, I think...
And looking at that, yes,
Mihai.
Yeah, looking at that, how there were so many variations on cutting edge, and do we look at something that was a modern kind of LCD game, or looking at something that quite literally put in a cutting edge? It's a fun thing to see just what everyone did with this particular theme.
Well, why don't we think about it from the point of view of thinking about which games would be fundamentally altered without having implemented either theme. I would say those were the ones that made it most central to their experience. So if y'all don't have any nominees, we can just start talking about mine. Or we can just start going through them.
Well, I was just kind of thinking, like, I really enjoyed Space Time Sunder as far as just, like, theme, like, use of the theme, and specifically the CD theme, because it had... I really enjoyed the controls. That was actually my main thing when I thought of the LCD games. It's like, did this enact this feeling of nostalgia that I had when I used to play these handheld games? And there's quite a few, but like the Space Time Sunder really kind of stuck it for me.
I feel how
the timing worked.
Mm-hmm. I feel the cutting edge connection is a bit tenuous. However, the LCD theme usage I feel like is strong, because I feel like one of the biggest challenges of the LCD game is how do you create a compelling experience where the visuals can only turn on and off. And I feel like Space Time Sunder leaned into that in a really strong way. It's one of the best uses of that style of visual, or that style of communicating to the player.
I think another thing that works with Space Time Sunder, that mechanic where you are quite literally cutting through parts, and having the implementation where you have to go through certain elements so that you're cutting through to be able to just not die. In thinking about some other games, probably the one that stuck out to me the most, just for its multiple layers of use, was Knife Ghost. One for doing something in a style of a Game & Watch game, which was cutting edge in terms of LCD games, and also quite literally as a cutting puff. And clean, inky artwork that it was made to have, and I thought it just really sealed levels that it looked excellent.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
And for similar reasons, I was writing a note here, and I just wrote, don't stab your agree instead of don't stab your hand. But don't stab your hand is a huge standout for this category because of theme adherence in both. And that I think when it comes to a game, it's in many regards impossible to separate the visual or audio presentation from the gameplay. So I feel like, yes, you could recreate any of these games without couching them as an LCD game. But what I really loved about Don't Stab Your Hand in particular is that it feels like it could have been a real LCD game. I mean, aside from the violent theming, the presentation was down. It felt the most authentic out of all the games.
I thought the branding was super on point.
Oh, yeah.
Like just just giving that feel of you bought this game in 1995.
Yes.
Like that's how I super felt about it. So like the way the description was, the visual of the actual device.
Yeah, this is like totally
sad face.
Aside from the stabbing your hand part, totally would have been a game that my mom would have taken out of her purse if she had to go drag me to like the DMV or something.
My only sad part, and this happened in a couple games, was that the button presses didn't depress when you press the keyboard, for example.
Like visually they didn't?
Yes. Yeah, there wasn't any like visual feedback, especially in a couple of the games, which I thought was very surprising that there was no like depressed state when you press the keyboard. But if you clicked on it, like in or Dial Monster, like when you pressed it with the mouse, it worked. It didn't do it. So I thought that was an interesting troubleshoot.
An exception to that would be another nominee for this category, Pocket Duty. Which I said duty. That game had an enormous amount of physicality to it, and so like you saw those buttons go down no matter what you pressed on the keyboard. Well, that is if you had your camera pointed properly.
Yes. Oh, it's so complicated.
The camera was a little rough on Pocket Duty.
Yeah. And one place where Pocket Duty excels in theme on LCD theme is the visuals, as far as you've got your LCD character, and then you've got the like dot printed I guess sticker around the border, like a real Tamagotchi, which was a nice touch, complete with drop shadow. I always appreciate the games that put the little drop shadow behind the sprites.
And the switchblade. Yes. And the connector.
Yep. Although that, I would say Pocket Duty's switchblade is a super tenuous connection to the cutting edge theme. It's definitely strong in LCD theme adherence, but super weak in cutting. Because that, as far as...
it didn't cut paper.
So I played I played Pocket Duty maybe more than any other game because I was convinced there was some kind of like secret to it. I spent a long time with that game today, trying to figure out what else was there, and if there was something else there, I didn't find it. So I figured, I'll level up the Pocket Duty enough, and it'll like unlock combat or something. And as far as I can tell, that's not true. So there's no gameplay integration of cutting edge at all.
Much like Tamagotchi. Well, and that's not fair. I guess Tamagotchi had like actual like. You can add numbers.
Tamagotchi wasn't given a cutting edge theme, which is a shame because, you've got the button with it's got a button with swords, but the fun animation should have been like the Pocket Duty throwing darts or throwing knives. I mean, there you go.
That's fair.
Because looking at Pocket Duty, I think the one thing that could consider it maybe the most cutting edge is that it draws upon probably one of the last eras of very LCD heavy things before we start going into much more animated work. So just by nature of it, it places at a later era than just about everything else on the list.
Yeah, but it didn't push its retrofuturism. I was surprised I didn't see more games trying to push a sort of retrofuturism. Actually, Space-Time Thunder did that. You could argue that's a stronger theme adherence to cutting edge than the alleged cutting mechanic. But we would be remiss not to mention, in fact, this is at the top of my list, Candlelight, which I would compare it to Pocket Duty in the sense of it was one of the games in this jam that most utilized the sensation of playing an LCD game to its full benefit. And that game took my breath away. I can agree with that. With its integration of the LCD game theme.
And particularly, just look, they were using LCD, well, technically VFD technology, but in a way that it was so atmospheric, and with the announcer that was coming in to really spook the player as they were making progress. So it's something that this is a game that had narrative behind, a little bit of narrative just to completely immersed in what was going on. So it was eerie going from level to level.
I also feel it's one of the few games in this bunch where it absolutely would not be as good an experience if visually translated to a different style. Like it has to be presented that way or it won't be as good, because the physicality of the machine and like the talking face and stuff is so tied into the emotional response, at least I had from that game.
Yes.
I think even if you tried, like as you said that, I was like, oh, you could probably do it as a raycast, like Doom style, but then it still wouldn't have that same feeling. So yeah. I can agree with that.
I think part of it is capturing that haunted machine kind of feel.
Why are you destroying them? They did nothing to you.
I won't spoil it on the stream, but I was also in search of secrets and I wasn't good enough to beat it, so I used a utility to disassemble the assets, and so I busted into all of the audio files, and I saw that there are some interesting things that happen at the end of that game. So I'll have to take another crack at it to try to actually properly beat it, because
I didn't get through level 2. I guess there's 3 levels. I didn't get through level 2. I got really frustrated because I didn't realize, because they had a mini map, which was super helpful. It was also very state of the art, in my opinion. Cutting edge.
They made, I'll also say, to remind everybody in the rules, people said, well, can I have more than one screen? And I said, you can only have one gameplay screen. So basically, to have multiple screens, you have to slice up your existing one screen real estate. And if you do that, you can have more. So they integrated the more than one screen by doing so, and it was an excellent use of that limitation.
My only confusion was I didn't realize I was flipping the map because it's turn.
I didn't realize that until I was watching the VOD.
Right? Oh my God, that's what's happening. I was so confused. Where am I going? It still confused me, but regardless, it was still a clever mechanic that if I had a better mental map of the area, probably would have helped. But this had a lot of great feel.
That scroll, I went back and I rewatched that one 30-second bit on the VOD 5 times, just relive that moment, because I was genuinely surprised. I shouldn't have been, because Ika was can we have scrolling background? Oh, okay, sure. So obviously they're going to have one, right? But no, I was caught off guard. I wasn't expecting it, and that, I think even Clay said something in the chat, something along the lines of, that could have been a gimmick, but it was executed so well. And that's my feeling about it exactly, of the lead up to it, the presentation of it, the use of it was so judicious that it's a moment that will stick with me for a long time, maybe forever.
Yes.
That could only happen on
I just remember when we were all watching. I'm sorry, you were saying?
I was saying you could only have that moment if it were a, LCD game or presented as such.
I had two more that I don't think was on your short list.
All right. Tell me who your nominees, and then we'll debate a winner.
Samurai Strike and Healthy Samurai, definitely. Samurai Strike, this might be more about gameplay. I don't know. Let me just go through it mentally, and you can tell me otherwise. But I thought it was really great, and it actually had this fun aspect of the 2-player. And of course, I didn't have another player to play with it, but it had that. If the gameplay pad was big enough, you could have 2 people playing at the same time.
I feel
because visually it also had that too, but.
True. I feel like while the game had the cutting edge theme with the samurai cutting and the LCD-ness, I feel like you could translate that gameplay to a non-LCD style and it would be the same game more or less. So I guess I can feel that. It's definitely a theme adherent for sure, but I don't consider it as strong an entry in this category. I think it is a strong contender for the gameplay category.
Fair enough. And then Healthy Samurai, which was fucking adorable. I loved it. It was so cute and janky, and it really hit my nostalgic feels. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not making fun of it. It's just like, so like there was moments where I was like, oh, the samurai doesn't turn around to cut. I have to go all the way back. And I was like, oh, it reminded me when I was like 5 playing it. And it was very odd. And then apparently the fella who made it's their first like completed game, and they did it in RPG Maker.
Yeah, when I heard it was RPG Maker, I was like, what? That's amazing.
That blew my freaking mind.
My same comment, though,
I think it's... go ahead.
I think for me, at least, my same comment applies to this one of that could easily be the exact same gameplay-wise and feel-wise if you translated it to a non-LCD style.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not
I see your argument.
disagreeing, but I'm like, it really hit that feel. It really hit that nostalgic moment for me because
I get you. I see what you mean.
I had a real nice...
It feels authentic in the way that Don't Stab Your Hand does.
Yeah, because Don't Stab Your Hand, it definitely felt like you were kind of playing on a computer, whereas this one, I really felt like if I built a Raspberry Pi and put it in my hands just like this, like I could definitely play that just like that. And sorry, go on.
On that note, if we're talking about gameplay, probably the one that
we're not talking about gameplay. That's the next category.
Well, excuse me, the cutting edge theme that had something that was unique and made it appear to be innovative was looking at that multiplayer element. Actually, Dial-A-Monster had stood out a little bit more than Samurai Strike, since while we understood how it worked, where it had a multi-person, multi-unit multiplayer element, the thing that was interesting is how it uses codes to be battling back and forth, which I remember Gigapets and things that were battle LCD toys were released, and all of a sudden it's the thing of, whoa, interactivity between these things, and that you could have little commands to see what goes up against each other. And now that I found very interesting.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Even more so than being able to multiplayer on one unit.
Yes, and that's true. I think I'm pretty sure I had a game along those lines where it like used that touch tone hardware. I wonder how much of those games came out because there was like some manufacturer with a warehouse full of touch tone buttons and was like, we need to make something with these, move this stock.
I didn't realize that that was what Michael said. I didn't realize that there were LCD games that incorporated that, because the first time I encountered that was like in the Game Boy, where it was like Legend of Zelda. They had codes you type in to like get items from another game. For example, it was Ages and Seasons that did it, because I didn't have that for other games, and so that's a very interesting aspect.
The late 90s was like the last hurrah for like LCD stuff, because in addition to the Tamagotchi, I don't know if y'all remember, now this is the next thing people are going to be nostalgic for after Vaporwave, which is early 90s, but like Millennium era or pre-Millennium, where everything was like looked like transparent candy. So they're like watches and stuff, and little keychains with frankly pathetic LCD toys. But this is like I think it's because it was cheap enough to make them like that, but they weren't sophisticated enough to actually do anything. There were a lot of code-based things at that time. Although I remember one where it was basically code-based, but it was delivered via something very similar to like a memory card. To do multiplayer, you'd physically pass around basically a proprietary memory card. But I digress. Let's start talking about a winner. We've been on this a long time. I believe that the winner in this category should be Candlelight, and I'm conflicted about a runner-up. So I want to hear y'all's arguments.
I think it's the toughest category that we put right up front. A lot of the entries we're looking at and the diversity of how they accomplish the theme. I feel like I have 2 or 3 favorites and trying to decide, which one really just left that impression that was a bit more than the rest.
I mean, right now it's between Don't Stab Your Hand and Knife Ghost for me.
Yeah, I think I would lean Don't Stab Your Hand slightly over Knife Ghost for the presentation. But, well, the Knife Ghost is very stylized. I think more than the art style, because even, Clay has created the art for the frame, and Dieting Hippo photoshopped it. It's not specifically the art, but the presentation of like the mode shift and the meter for like your time running out. Screamed LCD. Although I feel like that's almost penalizing Clay for going stylized. So I don't know. They're very similar in a way. I almost feel like they're equally theme adherent.
Well, what are your top 2, Michael?
Well, my top 3 were looking at Candlelight, Don't Stab Your Hand, and Knife Ghost. And I was reflecting on that the one thing that just ever so slightly made Don't Stab Your Hand stand out to me was looking at those options and how it was configured so that you clicked on the select button and you actually have not even just easy and hard mode, but a different game mode that you're completely randomizing everything rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which I went, okay, this feels like the B-side that's a little bit more impactful as a hard mode.
That is true. It is, and it's in the style of those old games where their second game mode was not truly a second game, but I don't know, it was, well, I mean, I'm sure some of them had the B game that was harder. I don't know, but gosh, it's so hard because I love, but it's Split the Baby. There's your cutting edge.
Yeah, right.
I lean Don't Stab Your Hand over Knife Ghost in this category for runner up, and I lean Candlelight for winner.
I think the only thing I could detract from Candlelight is that it did use VFD technology instead of LCD, so it is kind of a very...
I created this jam, it counts.
All
right. it
Executive decision.
No, but because if you look at the rules, if you look at what I say, and I'll pull it up right now to read it, because the reason why I threw this jam was to encourage making something within these constraints. Similar to why I hosted the input optional jam, was I wanted people to kind of learn to scope and hone for one cool thing. Excuse me. So I'm about to read the rules that I wrote, which I have not altered since like a week before the jam, probably, except to add more questions to the FAQ. And this part is bolded and underlined because it's the most important rule of all. It's foreground elements cannot rotate, translate, scale, touch, or overlap with any other foreground elements for the entire duration of the game. The silhouette of foreground elements may not change. Any illusion of such must be achieved by turning foreground elements on or off. So, like, whatever justification you come up with that, of it's LCD or VFD, honestly, I don't care, because the importance is making a game with this constraint.
So I guess in that case, we're just looking at which one left the more impactful impression between the two.
It doesn't have to be impactful. It just has to be what we think, I guess,
I mean,
if the theme had not been...
better fit the theme.
Yeah, if the theme had not been that, which one would have to be changed the most to work, or would have been most different? Which is hard. I mean, that's an intense counterfactual, and both of these games are kind of thinking along the same lines. But, I mean, I stay by my previous stance, although it's hard for me to do so, but I lean Don't Stab Your Hand slightly above Knife Ghost. Only slightly, though.
I'm having a slight mental adjustment after you have read what your rules were.
Mhm.
I'm like, Space-Time Thunder kind of fits the runner-up, especially with the whole the way you had set the rules up, especially
That's true.
mostly because of it. If the assets, they don't change and everything, it really had that LCD and like
That is
cutting
true.
edge feel. And like I'm thinking about it, because the way the LCD set up is like they're on specific locations, and it's like
Mhm.
definitely planned for. Some of the games didn't have that, and you weren't sure.
In terms of feel of gameplay and aesthetic, I feel like Space Time Sunder and Don't Stab Your Hand and Knife Ghost are on equal par.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of cutting edge adherence, I feel that Knife Ghost and Don't Stab Your Hand have greater adherence. If that's a tiebreaker.
For just runner-up or for...
Have we already agreed
Winner.
on the winner? I think we've agreed on the winner. If we've not officially... Do we agree that Candlelight wins this?
Candlelight was remarkable in what it accomplished, and even if there would be any differentiating element, both of them do have physicality of stabbing thing.
So let's go ahead and square this way. I'm going to write it down, my little spreadsheet. Candlelight, congratulations. Candlelight is the winner of Best Use of Themes. Now we're just going to have to settle our runner-up.
Right.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Well, yeah, it's really complicated just because like when we're trying to define cutting edge, so it's like, are we going literal or are we going like mechanic cutting edge? Like, I think that's where
Just talk about retrofuturism. I mean, Space Time Sunder has that retrofuture. Well, I don't know if this would be cheating on our part. Like, what if we split up runner-up into who's the... Well, can we have two runners-up? But then that settles...
we can always come back.
Don't stab your hand. Oh, yeah, it's true. We could just come back if we need a runner-up because of Game of Jam. That's true.
What if we do what's our second and then third pick? And then that way we don't have to have another debate. And that way it's like, who's the next... If Candlelight Game of Jam, then we would already have a runner-up already.
All right.
You know what I mean?
So cool. I'll make a note of that. Yeah, let's move on to best gameplay, especially because we just spent 40 minutes debating the first winner.
Toughest one up first.
It's always the hardest at first because that's when like all your thoughts want to tumble out. That's why I try to moderate of like, that's gameplay thing, guys. But all right, so now we're on best gameplay. So ignoring, of course, theme adherence is always like a tiebreaker in this case, but not really paying much attention to the theme anymore. Best gameplay, so tightest mechanics or best experience, most fun. And my short list is Space Time Sunder, Don't Stab Your Hand, Knife Ghost, and Candlelight. How about y'all?
Mine was Space Time Thunder, Healthy Samurai, and I can't remember my third one. Hold on. I'll let Michael go.
So for best gameplay, I was looking at Space Time Sunder, Don't Stab Your Hand, and I was also very, very amused by Cutting Edge, since we were trying to look at it and go, what is the gameplay? Are we doing the right thing? Is this working as it's intended? Should we break it all?
I decided that it was an art piece. That's how I decided
performance art. The act of making a game itself is art. It was the art. It's an honorable mention. I would not seriously consider it.
I wanted to give him a shout out though, because it did still it left something impactful in terms of, are we doing the gameplay? Is this intended gameplay?
Same for On the Edge, Out the Edge. Is that how it's pronounced?
I guess. I don't know. Rajan's British, so you might have to cheerio, chap. Ow, the edge. I don't know how British people talk. I don't know anything.
It was supposed to be. It's part of a meme that they told me.
Oh,
the Sonic, the shadow from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Edgy boy stuff.
Edgy boy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
that was lost on me. I thought it was really cute.
Yeah, they had to explain it to me on the stream. It's okay. I still love you. I also blame myself for the lack of it not being playable because I stole Takeso for 3 days.
Well, Takeso is an adult, and Takeso can choose how to spell.
He makes his own decision. He makes his own decisions.
Am I
can
Takeso's
still do
keeper?
that.
Said Cain to God. I think God was like, who's Takeso? Sorry. I would support Space Time Sunder as a winner in this category, and I feel like it's the game I'm the most likely to play for fun going forward. I'll probably play other ones for fun. But now, mind you, I love Super Hexagon, so it's a contributing factor, but I feel like it was the strongest game as a game, ignoring all the theme things. I don't know if y'all agree, and I have no idea who I would nominate for runner-up because there are so many great contenders. There's a lot of strong games in this jam. What do y'all think?
I'm definitely Space Time Sunder being best gameplay, especially because I was like, man, I need 1-bit chipsel in this game right now.
Yeah.
I almost started playing it. I'm like, I don't want to ruin it.
Honestly,
It sounds
Zeston could take this to market with a bit more polish and stuff. Like it's solid. This is good stuff.
And I think that was the defining factor for me as well, is looking at the game that had the most solid gameplay. It felt like Space Time Sunder. It was varied. When the mode changed to different direction, I went, oh, whoa, what am I doing? Oh, that's innovative. And for the constraints of being an LCD game, I was really impressed by how much action was put into it.
Yeah, the depth involved in the gameplay is impressive, especially given the restraints and constraints. So it sounds like we're agreed. Wow, this is one where we're going to have an easy time deciding the winners and a hard time deciding the runners up. Do we agree that Space Time Sunder should be the winner of best gameplay?
I agree.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome. So the hard part is the runner up.
Well, I'm torn between Healthy Samurai and Don't Stab Your Hand. I time playing Healthy Samurai. I went and played at least 4 times to get it right, and because it was definitely challenging as far as movement horizontally and trying to capture it. I even got up to 765 points there.
Dang. I'm torn between Don't Stab Your Hand and Knife Ghost. They're both similar.
And same as well with Don't Stab Your Hand and Knife Ghost. The thing, looking at the gameplay, Healthy Samurai looked and felt like an LCD game I would have had, but the more solid gameplay of the other two, because the controls, they don't feel responsive.
The issue I had with Healthy Samurai was also having a hard time with controls and having a hard time with feedback to the player. Of it was sometimes not clear to me if I had successfully gotten the thing or chopped the thing, and you can see on the stream where I lose a few times. I'm like, what? But I thought I got that. Which is not an insurmountable problem. It's a great game, but I feel like Don't Stab Your Hand and Knife Ghost both had much better telegraphing of what was going on, or responsiveness. Every time I stabbed my hand, it's because I stabbed my hand. And with Knife Ghost, that one also felt super responsive. So every time I lost, I this is my fault that I lost.
I felt Knife Ghost was over responsive. As far so my criteria is we're maybe not synced up. I think I felt Healthy Samurai was the most realistic of the LCD games.
But we're not in best use of theme category anymore. We're in best gameplay category.
I guess.
Not
as far as modern needs, then I know Healthy Samurai doesn't fit it. Even for me though, it's like gameplay was like, oh yeah, this is exactly how I remember fucking up all the time.
No, I think it's great. I'm really proud of Mr. Metal Alex for finishing it.
And particularly with an unusual route to development. And I think that is the only thing that I was feeling is that because the gameplay, as Snowshoe said, it felt like an LCD game I would have played, but I went, This is the LCD game I would have thrown across the room.
In my opinion, it's a great entry and I love it, but I feel like it's objectively less fun than Don't Stab Your Hand. Is my opinion.
I can have that fairness.
And looking at Knife Ghost versus Don't Stab Your Hand, I felt that Don't Stab Your Hand, for one, I liked how it ramped up the difficulty a little bit faster, and so I felt like the challenge was quicker than Knife Ghost, where it took a minute.
In defense of Knife Ghost, well, one, it's got the B mode, which is harder. One thing I actually liked about Knife Ghost a lot is that it had a bit more depth to its gameplay than many other entries, and I would say including Don't Stab Your Hand. With Knife Ghost, you had the pumpkins queued up so you could see them coming, and so just like the original Game & Watch game, the gameplay is really managing how you go between these, almost like DDR in a way, how you have to, like, in your peripheral vision, be aware of what's coming on down to prep to go there. And I found that deeper and more fun than Don't Stab Your Hand. So I would actually put forward Knife Ghost over Don't Stab Your Hand as the runner-up in this category.
I had about equal points with them. I know I argued a whole lot for Healthy Samurai, but I moved on. Honorable mention. But for Knife Ghost, like, it's really complicated because to me now, they are both excellent as far as how I handled the games. My experience of it, I was actually about even. So like I got about like 80 points in Knife Ghost and about 80 points in Don't Stab Your Hand. And eventually it kind of deteriorated over time because I couldn't, and that might have been me. Like I couldn't quite get the pattern down between the buttons. So a lot of that could have been on me. It could have been the game itself. I don't know. You guys can argue that. I felt like Don't Stab Your Hand felt a little bit more challenging than Knife Ghost. Because like I had, definitely with Knife Ghost, there was moments of like, shit, I fucked up. But with Don't Stab Your Hand, it's like, fuck.
And I would agree with Mihai's point earlier. I think the difficulty ramp up is better handled in Don't Stab Your Hand. But I think the gameplay has more depth in Knife Ghost. But let's hear you weigh in, Mihai.
Well, and one thing, a gameplay that I did like is it felt that the change of Don't Stab Your Hand, where it's A mode and B mode, were slightly more different. And it's difficult because I don't know how it could be accomplished with Knife Ghost, given that the mechanics, they're already random, where you're managing it, as you said, like the DDR patterns of what's coming next. And it came down to a preference of even realizing the countdown timer is there, so I have very good awareness of how long before I'm going to stab my hand. And the twitchier gameplay just it appealed slightly more than the queuing up nature.
I can see
that.
The queuing up nature. Does a dog have a queuing up nature?
A.
Moo.
Ew.
I apologize. That one went over my head.
I'll explain it when you're older. No, so it sounds like both of you lean Don't Stab Your Hand more than Knife Ghost.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'll go with that because I'm conflicted because they're so similar and they're both excellent. We'll go with Don't Stab Your Hand as a runner-up. Let me write that down. So there's a koan that the student goes to the master and says, "Does a dog have a Buddha nature?" And the master answers, "Moo," which means nothing. And this is and the student was
Jesus.
And allegedly he barked it.
No, not Jesus.
So like he barked moo like a dog. And the student was enlightened.
Oh,
that is such a delightful weeb thing because we all know what moo means.
Okay, so we've got Game of Jam to debate. This is the best overall. This is the opportunity to bring back your favorites. My short list for this shouldn't be a surprise because I mentioned these a bunch of times. Candlelight, Space-Time Sunder, Don't Stab Your Hand, and Knife Ghost are my nominees. What about y'all?
I'm in agreement with those four, and they all approached it from such a different direction that it's going to be a bit of a battle.
I feel like we need a micro criteria for Best of Jam. So
Hey man, Snowshoe, you've been doing this with me for years now. Shoot, we're getting old. We've been doing Dogpit jams for years.
I know.
Fuck.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, it's a really hard thing because it's kind of complicated to like totally like narrow down, especially.
Well, I guess I'll just start blabbing about who I think I should win, and you guys need to like disagree with me or agree with me.
Okay,
I'm actually torn though. It's really hard because all four of these are excellent in their own way. I feel like Don't Stab Your Hand would be my pick for Game of Jam. Because to me, it exemplifies everything: the gameplay, the themes, the aesthetic, and I stabbed my hand. What about y'all? What do y'all think?
I stabbed my hand. Sorry.
So, looking at these, probably the two that I feel really edged it out were Candlelight and Space-Time Sunder, as I felt that not only did they have the most innovative gameplay of everything, but each one even added a little bit more in Space-Time Sunder, and in its very clean presentation, how the gameplay mechanics changed so that it was a game you go one more round. Candlelight, atmospherically, was just a step beyond anything I would have expected in the jam, and it had emotional impact when
and the
playing
gameplay
it
was
and
good
watching
too.
it being.
We didn't talk about it too much for best gameplay, but it had good gameplay. I had fun playing it. I don't know. What do you think, Snowshoe?
Okay. Well, I mean, I've talked quite a lot about all these. Honestly, I'm willing to put this to rest by nominating Candlelight because it did everything that Michael said. I completely agree with. It definitely felt like it had not only just the aesthetic, but just the and utter gameplayness of me playing an LCD game.
You know what?
I can see this going further.
I agree. I actually agree. I feel like it's got everything. It's got the theme, the aesthetic, the emotions. I laughed, I cried, I felt something. Are we agreeing pretty early on Game of Jam? Do we agree that Candlelight should win Game of Jam?
The only thing that I would say between the two is feeling that Space-Time Sunder, Candlelight did have its one reverse mechanic, which was the one thing which I just went, just wish
that
we
was a
could
little complicated.
manipulate that just a bit. But even in the use of music and what's the word I'm looking for? The synthesized voice, where these are all things of the period, but still creating this presentation that was just
diegetic screen shake.
Just imagine the arcade cabinet starts vibrating.
Yeah, I think Candlelight wins it. You guys on board with that?
I'm okay with that.
All right.
It was a remarkable game.
Like I said, this was all really hard to pick, y'all.
It is, but we're not even done yet.
Good.
We're not done yet. Candlelight wins Game of Jam. So then who wins Best Use of Theme?
Oh yeah, we still have. Well, we already had our two runners up, so technically we just have between
Don't Stab Your Hand and Knife Ghost. Well, let's say Knife Ghost.
No, it was Don't Stab Your Hand and
Space-Time
Sunder.
Space-Time Sunder. Fuck, you're right. Sorry, this is a Christian stream. I think the Best Use of Theme winner shall be Don't Stab Your Hand, seeing as it's between that and Space-Time Sunder, and Space-Time Sunder has won Best Gameplay. Y'all good with that?
I mean, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I feel confident with that, with its expression again in multiple facets of the theme. It really,
all these games are exceptional. But okay, so the Best Use of Theme winner is Don't Stab Your Hand. Congratulations, surprising win from behind. All right, shoot. We made it through. We decided the winners. I'll reiterate that, and I'll probably have a visual for this too. Winner of Best Use of Theme is Don't Stab Your Hand. winner of Best Gameplay is Space Time Sunder, and Game of Jam is Candlelight. And congratulations to the winner of Community Choice, whose name will be shown in text right now, probably.
You're the best.
You're the best. You did such a great job. I'm so proud of you. All right. Nice work, folks. Oh, yeah.
And everyone, just thank you so much again for your creations. Everything fun to play. Love seeing the variations everyone came up with. Nice work. Nice work.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this was a challenging this was a challenging jam to participate in, and I'm really proud of everybody who submitted and adhered to the theme and did all the cool stuff and made these LCD games, because really these are all super strong. And stay tuned in the spring. We will have another jam as usual. And if you have any feedback about the stream or how the jam was run, please let us know, because your suggestions help us get better. And see me after class about prizes and stuff. I have no information to give in this video, but I might in text after the stream, which is totally live, not pre-recorded. Okay, cool. So I'll let y'all sign off.
It was fun joining y'all for another jam, and best wishes with your next game. I hope that each one of you that felt a strong passion about what you were working on, that you hopefully are inspired to develop it just that little bit further if there were any more ideas. But nice work, and just it was fun seeing everything that you guys had. Ciao, y'all.
You making the game and producing it and making it semi-playable in any form is always the biggest win, because being able to play it is always the biggest reward. So keep doing what you're doing. Hope to keep playing whatever you make. Bye.
Amazing, everybody. I'm proud of all you. I love you. And y'all have a great night. Later.